Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The swinging 60s, a groovy time where mop tops collided with peace and love, where music genres and legends were born, where the 3-minute pop song was king. It was time when everything was new, fresh and exciting. We are here to bring back that feeling and take a walk down memory lane. Here's Neil with 10 60s songs facts.
Thank you very much, Pav. So here we go. The first UK number one of the 1960s was What Do You Want to Make Those Eyes at Me For by Emile Ford and the Checkmates. And the last UK number one of the 1960s was Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris. The most weeks a song spent at number one in the UK was 8, and that accolade was shared by It's Now or Never by Elvis Presley, Wonderful Land by The Shadows, and Sugar Sugar by The Archies. Now, it's impossible to talk about 1960s music without mentioning the Beatles. They had 17 UK number one records during the 60s, and arguably the most famous band of all time.
Well, no one told me about.
Speaking of the Beatles, the biggest selling single of the 60s was She Loves You by the Beatles, which sold more than 1.89 million copies.
Wow, I feel good.
The music genre heavy metal is believed to have started in the 1960s.
Is she really going out with him?
Now, the 1960s saw the start of the Rock Festival as a live venue for bands and artists. Undoubtedly, the most famous of all was Woodstock.
What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The biggest selling album of the 1960s was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club, with an estimated 32 million sales.
R-E-S-P-C-T.
And the Beatles was also the biggest selling band of the 60s. But the biggest selling solo artist of the 60s was Elvis. He gave them
walking down the street.
That was the last fact, but he gave them a run for money. He was the biggest selling solo artist of that decade.
There we are. Well, we've got a tough road ahead of us, I feel, with this 60s songs. And joining us, ladies and gentlemen, I've just said as we went live with him, he has a voice like dark treacle on mahogany.
Sounds disgusting.
He is the host of one of the best podcasts out there, the My Time Capsule Podcast. He also is an actor. I mean, you will recognize him. You know this man. Even you might not know his name. You probably will know his name. But the one thing you have to be thankful for is this is the man that brought us the chicken song from Spitting Image. So
thank God we're not doing songs of the 80s. That's all I can say.
Well, that would have to be number one, wouldn't it?
Not for me, no. Just financially.
Exactly financially. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Fenton Stevens is with us. So hello, Michael.
Lovely to be with you. Yes,
Lovely
although embarrassingly, I am the man who at the age of 12 bought his very first single, which was Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a huge selling singing.
Huge selling. When you look at it's funny, isn't it, the huge selling songs of that time. That's the thing, when you're looking through this stuff, you sort of look back at songs and go, what is it about that I really like? And then I saw this, and you also go, if I've got to put together the top 10, I better see what other people think. So I did that thing of Googling, what were the best songs, what were the best selling songs, what do people regard as being the best songs? I didn't agree with any of them. For example, the fourth best, I think it's the fourth or the fifth best selling song of the 1960s was Tears by Ken Dodd.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And you sort of go, well, No. That's not. I'm not putting that fifth. That's my number one, obviously.
Yeah.
It was surprising when I was doing the facts and then looking my own sort of lists. Like you said, the amount of novelty songs in the 60s, there were a lot.
Yeah.
You forget how many there really were.
Yeah, Ernie.
Yeah.
I mean, and all that, but people like Bernard Cribbins, who died this year, sad, but some great songs. I mean, really brilliant. And then you look at, I just the other day in a charity shop walked by and went, oh my word, and did the head turn thing. And there was a compilation box set of all the recorded stuff by Peter Sellers.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I mean, amazing. It was an amazing thing. It's a 6-disc set in this thing. And they had the nerve to charge me £3 for it.
Disgusting. Terrible.
Terrible.
Bastards, how could
I
they
feel
do
so.
that?
That's the last time I give to their charity.
Yeah.
But don't
Wow,
you
what
think
a
it's
purchase.
comforting that in 2030 somebody's going to go past a charity shop and see the 12-inch single of the Chicken song and think, Michael Fenton Stevens, I'm going to give them the £75 that it'll probably cost in 20.
It probably
2030.
will. I think it probably does on eBay now.
You know?
The 12-inch single. That was the thing. When that song came out, I was on holiday in Spain. No, in Greece. I was away for Greece, in a beautiful island in Greece, and terrible. No mobile phones, no internet, nothing like that. And so I hadn't spoken to anybody. And I arrived back to find lots of messages on my newly bought answer phone. I was at the height of modern technology.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's going on? There's loads of messages. And I listened to them and thought, oh. And I rang Phil Pope, who'd written the Chicken song, and said, what's going on? Everybody keeps saying, well done, congratulations. And he said, that song that we released from the Spitting Image thing has gone to number one. I went, no way. You're joking. But he said, yeah, it is number one. So I went to W.H. Smith and I said, have you got a thing called the Chicken song? And she went, yeah, it's number one. I went, okay. Could I have it, please? And she said, okay. I said, have you got a 12-inch single? I'll buy that as well. And I bought both of them. So I bought my own number one. Yes.
Fair
It's
play.
sad,
Well, I
isn't it?
helped. I had the 7-inch single of
Did
that
you?
one.
I had
Yes.
the 12-inch.
Out of the pockets, as it was described at the time, from the pockets of babes and children. That's where we got it.
Yeah.
We'll probably talk more about that a little bit more. And
Well,
obviously
just
about your
one more
podcast.
thing
Oh,
on
go
there.
then,
I
go on then, Neil.
always remember, and I don't know whether this is an accolade or a disappointment, but they would never allow us to have it at the school disco. For some reason, they were never allowed to put it on. They said, nope, no, we're not playing
I
it.
don't know why people thought it was. Well, it was one of those songs also. The fourth week that it was number one, I listened to it, to see if it was still number one. You would listen to the charts on the
That's
radio.
right. Absolutely,
And I listened to it and I got to the number two and I thought, well, we can't have dropped down that much. So we must still be number one. And he said, and still at number one after 4 weeks, it's the Chicken song. And then they played something else. So I think, like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, we have that claim to fame of them just not playing it when it was number one. Because they said, I think the DJs all went, we've had enough of this.
Yeah. I mean, there was nothing like sexual or adult
not
about
really.
it. It was.
Might have just been a stand against the novelty song, like they said. It might have been that maybe they were so sort of fed up of listening.
I think it was
like-
dog lovers. It was
Yeah,
the line,
I was just
climb
about to
inside
say.
a dog. That's what they said.
Yeah, that's what we'll put it to. Yeah.
Indeed. Right. But we're here to do our 60s songs. And we were talking before we went live about just how hard this was. And I must admit, the one thing I'm worried about is that we'll all do our top 10s and then we'll start talking about other songs and think, oh my God, that was an obvious one that should have been in the top 10.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
so. I can list loads now.
Yeah.
In fact, I can mention groups. Now, you can even mention whole genre of songs that you will have missed.
Yeah. And I must admit, on some of the honourable mentions, there were songs that I've never even heard of as well. So I think, oh my God, there's even songs that I haven't even listened to that could be the greatest song I've ever heard.
Yeah,
But-
there are. I mean, I have to say, in my top 10, there are songs that on any other list would not be anywhere near the top 10.
Right.
And they're for particular reasons.
That's
and I think
that's exactly what
the
it
whole
should
point
be,
is
yeah.
that really this is a personal view. isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not, a definitive viewpoint. It's what I think
Yeah.
are the best 10 songs.
And as we've always said, that everyone's top 10s are correct. No one's top 10s are wrong.
No, exactly.
Right then. So, Michael,
Should we shoot on with
Kick us
it?
off with your number 10 then, please.
Well, you see, I jumped around with a number of things, but I couldn't. I just couldn't bear the idea of a 60s compilation of top 10 songs without having a Kinks song in it. So my top 10, number 10, is Sunny Afternoon by the Kinks, strangely. Now, you would think maybe Waterloo Sunset. Or, in fact, Lola, but Lola is a 70s song.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so that wouldn't have qualified. So I went for Sunny Afternoon just because it sort of changed their style, I think, that song. So I really, and I love it for the relaxed nature of the whole thing. It really is a song that is like being on a sunny afternoon, but it's also, life is rubbish and I'm not the best person in the world and I've made a mess of my life. But here I am. I'll just drink a beer, sit in the sun. Oh, well. And I love it. And I love all of Ray Davies's work. I think it's fantastic. So
I was going to say with that, Michael, I think Ray Davies is an appreciated songwriter in himself, a lyricist as well. The lyrics that he came out with, even if, like you mentioned, Lola, which isn't a 60s song, I think is so perfect in encapsulating what it's telling you. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a fantastic. Yeah, well, the Kinks, I think, are forgotten really to an extent in comparison to sort of the Beatles, but they had a very long career. I mean, it's about 8 or 9 years, maybe even longer, that they were in the charts constantly. And they wrote some absolutely fantastic songs, and they were really big sellers. I mean, Sunny Afternoon, I think Ray Davies does give credit to Taxman by the Beatles as a sort of an inspiration for it, because it says, the Taxman's taken all my dough and left me in this stately hall. Stately home. Dough and home don't really rhyme, do they? But no, never mind. Yeah, it's a great start to a song, and I love it.
The Kinks are one of those bands that they sound like the 60s. Do you know what I mean? They've got that sound that is straight out of. Just if you close your eyes, you can imagine the Paisley and the crushed velvet and all of that kind of stuff. It just
ironically, I did read a little thing about him writing the song, and it said, and it was from him. He said, I was sitting at home, my daughter was playing on the floor, and I was in the quintessential 60s house. He said it had orange walls, and it had, those chairs that were made of like a white dome, and you sat inside them, and it had wicker things hanging from the ceiling. And he said, and I looked around and I thought, what have I done?
That's a great one. Okay, then, great way to kick us off. Neil, your number 10.
So my number 10 is, we spoke about how it's hard to choose, and I think this top 10 would be an ever-evolving one. Every day would change. But I thought, well, to get it easier, I'm going to go to my playlist and make sure I've spoken about this numerous times on this podcast. So if it makes my playlist, it means it's going to be played a lot. So I've chosen a few that are on there. And this one is Summer in the City with The Lovin' Spoonful. Now, it was a while before I re-engaged with this song. And I sort of knew it as a child, used to love it, found it very boppy and everything, very sort of uplifting or whatever it was that I did as a child. And then I sort of forgot about it. And then there was when Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance came out, on the trailer, they used this. And it was so effective on that trailer that I never forgot it.
It's at the very start of the movie.
That's right, it is as well,
at the very start of the movie.
But obviously, for, it was the trailer that really, I thought, oh my God, I love that song. And ever since, it's been on the playlist and everything. It's everything. Again, it's a very 60s song. When you see these documentaries, I don't know whether it's got Woodstock involved or they're talking about the hippie generation and everything like that, it's very often used in these programs, documentaries and everything. And again, it's another encapsulation of the 60s to me, music.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a fantastic song. But it's interesting, isn't it, the start of songs. I used to play a band. I had a very good friend called Jeremy Pascal, who was a DJ, used to work for Capital Radio. And he loved playing a game called the Intro game. So we would play it for hours and hours and hours. And he would go through his vast record collection, put it on, and only play the intro. And you'd have to guess what it was. And that Loving Spoonful, Summer in the City, that's a prime. That was one of the ones that used to catch people out because it doesn't go 2, 3, 4, boom, hot now, summer in the city. It goes, yeah.
That's it.
It's weird.
Yeah.
That was just.
And it's not like,
record,
they did have lots of weird openings and long openings.
Yeah.
They found, of course, with the skip generation, which I think is what they call them, the people who go on Spotify and listen to things, and you just can go to the next, go to the next, go to the next. People come straight in with the song. They come straight in with the lyrics nowadays. Nearly all songs start with one drum beat and you're in.
Yeah.
And actually, ironically, the first people really to do that were the Beatles.
Yeah, you look at things like
Yeah,
Help
absolutely.
and stuff like that. It was all one note and then straight into the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's a brilliant song. Yeah,
It really is.
absolutely.
Great start. So my number 10, this is the one that I thought before my mum gave me like 8 or 9 other ones that I should have chosen. But this is the one that always reminds me of my mum. And it's San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair by Scott McKenzie.
Lovely.
And it's a beautiful song. And again, it's about as 60s as you can get. It's all flower power and peace and love. I don't think he actually had any other hits. I'm not quite sure whether he did, but it's just a beautiful tune.
Yeah,
and I'm
beautiful.
not sure whether it's on the Forrest Gump soundtrack, but I'm sure it's on a lot of soundtracks where it's all about Vietnam and things like that. It's all
Becomes one of those sort of when you think of Vietnam War, you quite often get this
peace and love, isn't it? It's the peace and
Hamburger
love.
Hill. It
Oh,
was
right.
in that one. Do you remember?
I think it was also in Watchmen as well. It might have been on Watchmen as well. But it's a beautiful song, and I love it. If anything, it just reminds me of my mum. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful one to have.
Was she a woman of, or is she a woman of the 60s?
Oh, she is. Definitely is. Yeah. It's funny because like we were talking about this on Monday. I went to see my mum and dad, and we were talking about it so much that we ended up getting the Alexa and we said, just play 60s songs. So we were just doing nothing all night but listening to, and he was going, oh, what a great song that is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a great song. I just
My
changed
wife and
it
I
by
did
10.
exactly the same thing. We spent hours and hours going, what about that one? Oh, God.
It's crazy.
Amazing.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great tune. And
Lovely.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, I
lovely
was
one.
actually, I lived right through the 60s, but I was not really there. You know, like they say, if you remember it, you weren't really there. Unfortunately, if you were just too young, you weren't really there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was born in
Right,
58. So by the time I sort of got old enough to be part of the 60s, it was the bloody 70s.
Right.
Damn it.
You were always just a decade behind.
Just missed it. And,
you
and I've
did
spent the
get-
rest of my life, I have spent my entire life, about 15 years ago, I went on tour in a play. And every town we were in, I would get bored and I would go around the shops and I would go into the clothes shops and say to them, do you have flowery shirts? And they would say, yeah, we got Hawaiian shirts. No, not Hawaiian shirts. A shirt with a flowery pattern on for men.
Yeah.
And they would say, no, we haven't. Don't be silly. And I'd say, but you're missing out because there's a whole generation of people like me who never got to wear flowery, powery shirts
Exactly.
when we were young and we all wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you look at it, they're everywhere.
Exactly.
Men of my age, we buy them by the shed load.
Exactly. A lot more availability now. I was going to say, Michael, as well, you said you didn't have much to do with the 60s. You did get the Two Little Boys single.
That's true. Indeed. I put an end to the 60s, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah.
I destroyed. That's enough of that, they said.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another decade.
Indeed. Okay then, Michael, you're number 9, please.
Right, number 9. You know, amazingly, also looking at these, a lot of the songs I've chosen were originally released as B-sides. I'll
Wow,
tell you as we
okay.
go through. This song was released as B-sides, but it was also released in other decades and has been a hit a number of times. And it's Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
What a voice there.
Unbelievable. And the best of the voices, I think, because it was recorded by all sorts of different people and has been over the time. It has this extraordinary... In fact, when it was first released, 1955, it was written, and it was first released. There were 3 versions released in the US, and 4 versions of it came out in the UK. And at one point, all of them were in the top 20 in either the US or the UK. So there were 7 versions of the song, all in the charts at the same time.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
It's
It
crazy.
is.
I mean, it's that note, isn't it? It's that note at the end when he says, I need your love is...
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across this one, like probably a lot of people sort of my age and a little bit younger maybe, through the Ghost movie. Because that's what they used it a lot on
They
that.
did.
And it was
It
like
really
part of the
came
soundtrack as well.
Yes, the famous pottery scene.
The pottery scene, indeed. Yeah.
And what were they making? I can't quite remember.
I don't know. Making Sweet Love, I think, is what they were doing, Michael. And then
Yeah, it was actually
lampooned-
Bobby Hatfield was the one of the is the member of the Righteous Brothers who sang it, and amazingly, they both wanted to.
Oh,
When
really?
it came up, they decided to do it on their album, and they said, "I'll sing it." He said, "No, I'll sing it," and they tossed the coin,
Really?
and so it ended up with his voice, which was the higher voice, singing it. Otherwise, it would be a completely different version.
It would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Who was the other Righteous Brother? Was it Bill Medley?
I think it was Bill Medley.
Yeah. And I don't
Yeah.
because he's the one that sang like the Dirty Dancing. I've had the time.
He
Like, he's got a
did.
much more gruffer voice, hasn't he?
Yeah,
That wouldn't
quite.
have worked. That would have been
No.
And of course, the
No.
Elvis version that you see at the end of, I think it was the last gig he ever did when he's at the piano and he's
Yeah, he
overweight.
did do that.
But he sings.
And
it
don't
beautifully.
forget Robson and Jerome.
Oh, of course,
Of
Rob's,
course, yes.
You know,
yes.
of course.
And Jimmy Young.
Oh,
did
yeah.
Jimmy Young,
Jimmy
do a
Young, the old
version, did he?
DJ. Yeah, before he became a DJ, he was a singer, and he had a #1 hit with it in the UK in the
I
50s.
didn't realise he'd sung it as well. And
There you
Ken
are.
Dodd probably sang a version as well.
I should imagine so. We've all had a go. We've all
all
done a day of karaoke.
It's just
There
none of us
you
can
are.
hit that top note. That's the trouble.
No, I don't.
No.
You say that. I can have a good go.
There you go. There you go. Right then, Neil, you're number 9 then, please.
So I'm talking of timeless classics and a voice to die for. I absolutely adore this lady, and it was passed on by my granddad because this was one of his favorite songs, and it's "Crazy" by Patsy Cline, 1961. I still love this song to this day. Obviously, a very sentimental reason behind it, but her voice. And I do think this one's timeless because I don't think this sounds like it's 60s. I don't think it sounds like it's 50s. It's just one of those ones that's always seems to have been there. Yeah.
I nearly chose it myself.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I was aware that I'd, in a way, ignored pre-Beatles. I was ignoring that era of the 60s. And this is an early 60s song, isn't it?
Yeah, 61 this came out.
61, yeah.
But to me, I mean, you could easily hear this playing from the piano bars of today and think it was modern. Probably not sang as well, because I think Patsy Cline had one of those voices that...
This is another one of those karaoke like favourites, isn't it? That a lot of women think that they can sing it, and then they try and sing it. And
Just can't.
It's
Funny because
sounds like
almost every other song she ever sang, Patsy Cline, was a sort of, as you say, almost a novelty song.
Right.
Or hip bop 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 beep 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 bop sort of songs. You know that it was just sort of jolly everything, and then suddenly
That's right.
he sings this thing, and it's so soulful.
Yeah,
It is. It really is.
beautiful
Oh, we're all
tune.
Good choice. Good choice.
Beautiful
Oh,
tune.
thank you.
Well done, Neil.
We try our hardest.
Well
here.
done, Neil. Okay, my number 9. We're going to go with the Mamas and Papas and California Dreaming.
Lovely.
Now, I went to the first time I ever went to LA back in 1990. It would have been. My mum and dad very kindly paid for me and my brother to go because it was my 21st and my brother's 18th that year. And I can remember it was a time when you could go and get a CD cut with, you could pick songs, and it was like $28 to get one CD. And I ended up getting put on there things like I Love LA by Randy Newman. I think I put San Francisco Flowers in Your Hair, and also California Dreaming, because I was trying to get loads of songs that meant like California and that kind of thing. And the only reason I picked that song, I'd never heard the song before. I picked it because it had California, and then I listened to it and I thought, oh my God, what a fantastic tune. Because I'd known Mamas and Papas for Monday, but I'd never heard that song. And it's weird that it took me 21 years of my life to hear California Dreaming, and I only put it on because it had California in the title, and I was so happy that I did. I mean, I would have heard it by now, I'm sure, but...
It's an amazing song, isn't it? I mean, it's almost impossible to work out what harmonies they're singing, I think.
Exactly.
When you go through, what part are you singing? Who's singing now? What's going on? It's an amazing, soup of voices.
Agree. And it's I find it sounds a little bit like the Eagles in the fact that their harmonies sound like one voice.
Yeah.
As opposed to picking out, they're doing the high register, they're doing the low register, and then you can sort of sing along to some of the harmonies. You can't do that with the Mamas and the Papas. They are just one voice. A soup of voices, I think, is a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that thing of almost swapping lead. That's what they do. You'll sing a line which is the actual lead vocal, and then go to the harmony, and it still has the same prominence. So you've got to pick it out from the whole thing.
Completely agree.
I was. It's a very good choice, Mamas and the Papas. That's a very 60s thing, isn't it?
Very 60s.
Yeah, I was tempted by Dream a Little Dream.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
another
love
great
as
one.
well.
Yeah, another great one.
But that's mostly Mama Cass,
Cass,
isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
Who is it right that Mama Cass and Jimi Hendrix, and I think someone else, amazingly, possibly even, can't think. Never mind. But I think this is right. Mama Cass and Jimi Hendrix died in the same flat in London.
See, no, I think
Is that right?
You're right.
I've read something about
Because
that.
wasn't it
myself.
someone famous? It was
somebody else's flat, obviously.
I've been
yeah,
pulled up on this before because I think I remember saying on a previous episode that Jimi Hendrix died in Harry Nilsson's flat, and then somebody messaged and said, "No, you're wrong. It was somebody else's."
Is
flat.
it not? Is it something to do with Clapton?
Maybe.
No, I know that Clapton. We're getting deep in the weeds here, but I think
Somebody can look it up.
Clapton
Somebody
was
can
supposed
look
to be
it up.
meeting up with Hendrix the night that he died and didn't meet up, but I mean,
But
Google it for actual facts. But I think
but
you're,
certainly
I think
there's
you
that
are
connection
right
between
there.
the two, isn't there?
Well, there's a
Definitely
lot of
connection.
stories around the Mamas and Papas, and especially Mama Cass and everything. It's ripe for a good documentary.
Indeed.
To a previous episode. But I mean, unless there could well be one, but I would imagine that would be a fascinating documentary.
Yeah.
Because you read all sorts of things online. I mean, obviously they pre-tail it with, this could or couldn't be real, but if somebody did the digging, I'm sure they could find it out.
Yeah. I spoke to a friend of mine on my podcast, and Ronnie Golden, who's a fantastic guitarist and songwriter. And I was talking to him about the Beatles, which he'd picked as one of his things he wanted to put in My Time Capsule. And I said there was a night when Jimi Hendrix was performing and Paul McCartney turned up unexpectedly and was standing at the back watching the gig. And Jimi Hendrix came on and said, so, great song being released today. So we're going to play it. And went, we're Sgt. Pepper's Lonely. I started singing it. And the album had been released that day.
Oh, wow.
He performed it as his first track. And Ronnie said, yeah, that's right. I went, yeah. He said, I was there.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's just, and it's always. I've always thought with people like Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon, what they would be like if they were alive now. Someone like the Beatles. Would the Beatles be? I mean, I would assume they would be like any of these big bands, like the Rolling Stones, charging £600 for a ticket. Or would they be like Status Quo and playing Butlin's Minehead?
Well, yeah.
How would it ruin? It would ruin their legacy.
Yeah.
It's something like Jimi Hendrix and people that have died, the part of the 27 Club. They're just enshrined in this sort of mystery now, and they never grow old, and they're always beautiful, and their songs are amazing.
They can never record a bad record either.
Exactly.
Unless you're able to take the voice of someone and remove the piano and then put all sorts of things on it. No comment.
There you go. I mean, it is interesting. You're talking about the Now and Then song. What do you guys?
I haven't. Do you know? I've got this sort of aversion to it, and I don't know why.
Right.
I really don't know why. I love the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I love everything about them, and I love Paul McCartney. I spent recently. I was filming somewhere, and I spent several evenings with Kate Robbins, who is the second cousin of Paul McCartney, she told me a whole evening of stories about Paul McCartney, and I can't repeat any of them, sadly, because they're sort of private family stories.
Yeah, fair enough.
And she told them to me and trusted me with them, and they were all incredibly heartwarming and absolutely convinced me that the view that you have of Paul McCartney as a man who really fundamentally just wants to be with his family and wants to get on with life and be normal, despite his extraordinary fame and incredible fortune, turned out to be true.
Yeah. I mean, that's nice.
What do you think
it is nice.
Pav? What do you think?
I think the song is beautiful. I think the song is great. It's just the video. It's the video.
Right.
That certain parts of it where it's showing the Beatles back in the day is great. Why they've got everybody sort of cut together and they've got John Lennon pissing about on a guitar like he's some kind of joker. I don't understand that.
No.
There must have been
Ask
other
Peter Jackson.
But there must have been other footage they could have used of John Lennon sat at a piano singing something rather than him with an acoustic
Well, imagine
guitar.
there's a famous video of that. Perhaps they
Yeah.
couldn't get the rights to it.
I watched the video and there's parts of it where it looks like it's a parody video of somebody piss taking the Beatles.
It looks like somebody's put it together in their front room.
Yeah,
and it's
I was
been released
really
on
shocked
the.
because
It's like the sort of thing you might see on YouTube where they couldn't get a video for it.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
It may well grow on me, but I find it a bit cold. I don't know why. I don't know.
And yet I know people who would move to tears.
Absolutely,
by it
I've
because
seen some
because
videos
it is
of people in
there.
the
It is again.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
it is again.
But there you go. Okay,
Ah, well.
so that was my number 9. So we're off to you, Michael, with your number 8, please.
At number 8, well, I'm moving on to another of the great bands. The band that my wife calls, not those people with the whiny voices, and it's the Beach Boys. It's the song, and I don't like most Beach Boys songs, but I love this song, and I think it's possibly one of the greatest songs ever written, and it's God Only Knows, which is astonishing. I mean, it's a lovely, lovely song, but just the tune. Just the tune. La da da dee dee doo doo. La da da dee doo 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 doo. La da da dee doo doo doo. La da da dee doo doo doo. That note, that it's just so daring and so extraordinary. I mean, it's opera. It's everything. It's classical music. It's all there. It's a great musical song. It's everything. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and he sings it so well. And it isn't spoilt by lots of other people joining in too much.
No.
Which is what they did.
I think the Beach Boys, along with the Beatles, we could easily do a top 10 Beach Boys song.
Yeah.
I could easily. I have a Beach Boys song in my top 10. The same I do have a Kinks song in my top 10 coming up later. So it was interesting to see which one you were going to choose, because mine was so close to being this one. It was so close because it's just, I think anything from Pet Sounds you could choose, because I mean, again, that's just an iconic album from the 60s. So yeah, I mean, it's a great choice. Neil?
Well, with the Beach Boys, I'm a bit sort of behind. I've dabbled, but I grew up a lot listening to my parents' records, which introduced me to the 60s, and that's where I got my love of the 60s music from. And they didn't have a Beach Boys album, which I find really bizarre.
Right.
They didn't. So it took me ages to realise who or what the Beach Boys were. And
Right.
established. So I'm still only dipping my toes, and I'm a bit like Michael. Some of it I love, some of it, I could give or take.
It's weird because a lot of their surf stuff just all sound like the same song.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's basically
when
the
you
same.
say you chose California Dreaming, at least you didn't choose I Wish They All Could Be California Girls.
There you
Yeah.
go. You see?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Why didn't I put that one on my CD?
I don't know. You were a
Oh my
teenager. What's
God.
wrong with you?
I know. I need to get that time machine so I can go back. And
Or just
sort
go
that.
back. Just go back to LA. That's the excuse you've got now.
That's the
That's
excuse.
your
Yeah,
excuse.
I'm sure my wife will understand. I've got to go
She
back. I need to
will.
change this CD.
Yeah.
Costs less than £28 now. I'll tell you that, or $28. That's a great one though, Michael. Well done, Neil. Your number 8.
So it's Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison, and the reason for this is there's some sort of nostalgia involved in this. I do love Van Morrison songs, and grew to love him a lot more. But my parents had this greatest hits thing. I don't know whether it was a Van Morrison album or whether it was one of these ones that you could win at the local fair, but it had Brown Eyed Girl on. And me and my brother, when we used to play the music, used to keep putting this song on a lot. Then it sort of went out of favour everywhere, and then it came back in that Julia Roberts film, didn't it? Was it Sleeping with the Enemy? And then it got a resurgence. Yeah, it got a resurgence of popularity. But Van Morrison's another artist. I mean, I know he can be a bit of an arse, the way he can treat his audience, etc., and everything like that. But we can't deny the fact that that man has written some beautiful and very catchy songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think he's still performing now, isn't he, or was?
I think so, probably
very recently.
somewhere.
Yeah,
More than likely.
Yeah.
yeah.
I once went with I met up with Chris Evans in the days when he was drinking quite heavily at the Soho House in London. I just bumped into him really, and I'm not the sort of person who hangs around those places. I just happened to be there one night. We got talking because we'd played a football match together. And then he said, have a drink. And I said, have another drink. And then we drank and drank. And he said, hey, Van Morrison's playing tonight. Do you want to go? And I said, okay. So I said, I'm just going to ring my wife because she'll wonder where I am. So I rang my wife, said, I'm going with Chris Evans to see Van Morrison. She said, fuck off. She said, will you be coming home tonight? And I said, yeah. No, I'll probably the last train, but I'll be home. And I went to see this thing. We saw this concert, and then we met Van Morrison afterwards. And Chris Evans, by this time, was very enthusiastic and very drunk. And he said, I know, let's all go to Dublin. And I said, won't we need passports for that? And he said, don't be stupid, with Van Morrison.
He is a passport.
And you know, they went. I didn't. I said, no, I've got to go home.
Really?
How stupid is that? I should have just gone.
Well, stupid or safe.
Yeah, safe, maybe.
Yeah, you might have regretted it in the morning.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I'm still married.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I find that, part of my choice process for this top 10, and for any of the music ones we do, is always because there are certain songs that I can't listen to anymore because whenever I go and do singing gigs, I sing them every night.
Yeah.
So things like this song, Sweet Caroline, American Pie, I'm a Believer, Daydream Believer, they're all great songs, but I've sung them so many times, the magic has kind of worn off a little bit. And this is another one. This is another one that I suppose you take the song for granted because you hear it so many times. Yeah. It's a great song, but it just wouldn't have made my top 10.
I mean, my wife said, you'd have to put Daydream Believer in at the Monkees. And I said, why? And she said, well, you played bass on it. And
you didn't.
I didn't on the actual record, but I did once play bass behind Davy Jones while he sang it on the Little and Large show.
Oh my
fantastic.
God. Michael, you're like the Forrest Gump of entertainment. You've been everywhere.
I've had many careers.
I've met Little and Large.
Have you?
But have you played bass?
No, I
didn't.
I was a bit young, but I did meet Little and Large. I met them when they opened the new supermarket Gateway in
brilliant. They were lovely.
Yeah, they came
fun.
and opened a new supermarket, and I was in the queue and got to meet them both. It was
lovely.
Fun.
I was very excited.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent the day with Davy Jones, and then we all sang along, And just,
that is,
you
that
can
is
see
awesome.
it. You can, if you look it up, you'll find it on YouTube. It's very strange. A young me standing there, just playing the bass.
Well, for our Patreon subscribers on the video playlist, I will find that YouTube clip and I will put that in there just for you guys.
I'm going to go and have a look when we finish tonight. I'm going to go and watch it. So,
have you ever written an autobiography, Michael?
No, I'm sort of doing it through my podcast
and
things like this. I'm slowly being reminded of things that I've done, and then I tell people stories because I think if I had to write them down, I wouldn't remember them.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, you've got stories to tell, haven't you? You have. Oh dear, that's a great one. Okay, my number 8. Again, we're going into soul and Motown and all of that kind. We can do a top 10 Motown songs. I'm sure we would do. I'd love to do that. But I'm going to go for the Tracks of My Tears by Smokey Robinson and the Miracles.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Smokey Robinson's another one of those guys that when you look at if you just like grabbed your hand and delved into a list of all of his and picked out 5, they're going to be 5 songs that are just timeless songs. And he's got one of those voices that can just melt anybody.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of Motown songs in my top 10, but for me, you could have had Tears of a Clown. I mean, there's just so many to list, but for me, Tracks of My Tears. Now, if I'm correct in remembering, I think wasn't that in Platoon?
I think it was in Platoon. Yeah, it is, because I've got the soundtrack to that, so yeah, it is.
So I think that was where I might have heard it the very first time, but oh my God, it's just a beautiful song. It is just beautiful.
And what a voice. Carried for so long as well.
What a voice, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to our number 7s. So, Michael,
number 7.
Your number 7, please.
Yeah, this is. Always love this song, but I also have a particular reason for it. I did a gig about 7 or 8 years ago. We were asked to do a charity gig. It wasn't. It was a sort of a commemorative gig where people performed stuff, and it was for Douglas Adams. It was in memory of Douglas Adams. And I was sitting backstage and I was talking to this old bloke. You know, you may look at me and think, oh, but I looked at this bloke and thought, oh, he's an old bloke. And he was long grey hair, white beard. And he introduced himself, said, oh, no, I'm Gary. And I went, hello, Mike. And we chatted for a bit about, that was good, wasn't it? And, oh, I love that group. People who'd been on. And there were some amazing people playing that night. Pink Floyd played, for example, which was ridiculous. And we sang a silly comedy song. And then we'd done our bit, so I went and sat in the audience. And then this bloke came on and sat down at an organ and sang Whiter Shade of Pale.
Wow.
And it was Gary Brooker.
Oh, God.
And I tell you, the version that he sang that night, only about just before he died, was better than the original version. His voice was so perfect. It matured, but he still sang it he just soared. It was absolutely fantastic. And I can't listen to this song, and I never have, without just being amazed at his vocal abilities. And it's a beautiful song. And also many years ago, I was in a program called People Like Us, a comedy called People Like Us. And they said, I played a vicar. So at one point I was sitting at an organ and the director, John Morton, said, can you play at all, Mike? I said, we can play a little bit, you know. He said, play something that sounds like a church song. I said, I know a few hymns, I can play those. And I said, oh, I've got an idea. Why don't we, if I start off with, this the bit of Bach. So I was playing dum 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 dum, and then I went into Whiter Shade of Pale.
Oh, right.
Which but underneath the scene, so that you'd have to look back and see it. And it's the only time I've ever played the piano or organ in public. So, but
my auntie.
Love it.
Sorry, Michael. I was going to say my auntie and uncle got married in the 60s, and they famously tell the story that was their famous song. That was their song. Mm-hmm. So they asked the church organist. They got married. They lived in Kent, and they asked the church organist to learn this, and he apparently did. And they walked, to walk up the aisle, the bride was to this tune, but apparently he was like Les Dawson style. And they said, no, everybody in the church was roaring with laughter the way he was trying to play this song. They said, if only there'd been cameras and things to have recorded it.
They really didn't skip the light fandango, did they?
No, they said it was just great. I mean, a memorable wedding, they said. It made it memorable, but for the wrong reasons. But yeah, I'd love to have seen that.
In reference to one of our episodes previous, they didn't go up to him and ask him if he's playing all the notes in the right order or in the wrong order, did they?
Honestly. I mean, my mum and dad still roar. My dad, I mean, he finds it hilarious. And when my uncles comes to stay, my auntie and uncle, they still talk about it. And my dad roars. He said, honestly, it was the funniest thing.
I bet they can't listen to this song without laughing.
No, it's probably destroyed it.
But it was their first hit. Procol Harum. You've released a song, and this is it. Whiter Shade of Pale.
Yeah,
amazing.
Sort of only way is dying, really. After
it
that,
really is sad.
Yeah, it's crazy. Go on then, Neil. You're number 7.
So I've spoken a lot about this song in other podcasts. It's been in movie songs, etc., etc. It's Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's Bad Moon Rising. I learnt this song from the movie American Werewolf in London. I came to really appreciate it. It's way up on my playlist that I've spoken about many times. It's been a karaoke song of mine when I have done karaoke, which isn't always often, especially not now. So yeah, I just love this song, and I think it is from seeing American Werewolf in London. I think far too young, but catching on to this song, and I've loved it ever since. And it had to go into my list on the 60s because it came out in 69.
Just made it.
Just got in.
It works on so many levels, though. It's a bop.
Yeah.
It's not very long. It's a nice, simple tune. Yeah. But it's got a little bit of like Halloween leanings to it, and it's a great tune. It really is a great tune.
Yeah, very good choice.
I'm just waiting for Michael to say, well, I was sat in a pub one day
and I've done enough of that already.
Revival come walking past.
My wife said, don't turn everything around to a story about you.
No, please do, Michael, please do.
If you've got a story, please share it with us, because they've been gold so far. I'm trying to work out at the moment, we're only up to number 7, which bit I'm going to use for the promo, because I've got like half a dozen already to use.
Well, that's good.
So there you go.
What's yours?
Mine is. Oh, I thought you were going to get me a drink then, Michael.
Sadly, we're on Zoom. And,
we can't do it. Yeah.
I've got my cans lined up.
Oh, nice. That's what I like to see. I'm going for. I think this is still Motown. Jackson 5, and I Want You Back.
Oh,
What year was that then?
Oh shit! It was no. It must have been 60s. I'm sure it was 60s.
I don't know.
Oh, don't do that to me, Neil, because it's taken me ages to get this top 10 sorted. I'm sure it was in the 60s.
See, I thought this was the 70s.
Are you sure? Oh, God, let me check. Hang on.
check it.
I Want You Back.
You
I'm
can have
pretty
my
sure
number
it was-
11 if you want. I didn't know where to put it.
I Want You Back was released by Motown in October 1969.
Wow.
Whoa.
And became
Yes,
their
well, of
first
course,
number one
yeah.
hit for the
That
band.
makes sense. Michael Jackson, same age as me. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, it was number
Would be if
one
he was
on
still
January
alive.
the 31st, 1970, but it was released in October 69.
There you go.
Oh,
Perfect.
God, that was
Yeah,
close.
I've got one of those. I've got one. I'm with you on this. I've got one on my list that, in fact, is next. That is people would not think of as a 60s song, but it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it works on so many levels. It's a great bop. It's a great tune. It works great on Guardians of the Galaxy at the end.
Yeah.
If you've seen
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy with little baby Groot dancing.
Yeah.
It's, again, though, I could have chosen 4 or 5 different Jackson 5 songs, but this was the one that made it for me. So,
And is this the one you remember? I mean, obviously you don't remember it when it came out, but obviously we saw a lot of the Jackson 5s growing up in the 70s and things. Is this the one you remember first? I mean, mine was always the Rockin' Robin.
well, the
for
reason
some
I
reason.
remember this one is because I can't remember what Michael Jackson TV special he did, but I think it might have been the night that he did the moonwalk for the first time, and he did Billie
okay.
Jean. But he also did, like, he got the Jacksons back, and they did like a medley.
Right.
And they did
ABC,
this one. Yeah,
and-
ABC.
yeah.
They did, and they did this one, and this is going back again. This would have been early 80s, I think, when they did it. And I'd known Michael Jackson for doing Billie Jean and Beat It and stuff like that. And I thought, oh my God, what's this stuff? And I really went heavily into Motown and Atlantic Records stuff, and Marvin Gaye and all, Lionel Richie, the Commodores, all of that. So I really sort of went head first into all that stuff. And sort of that's the beauty of music. I haven't quite done that with things like Pearl Jam and the stuff that Neil loves, and even Pink Floyd. I can't for some reason get into it, but I fell head first into Motown and the Atlantic and soul and all that kind of stuff.
It's a lot easier going, isn't it?
I
That's
think so.
why it's
It
a
is.
happy place music.
Happy place music.
Yeah, or well, some of it, and then
Some of
also
it.
the opposite. You get absolutely heart-wrenching stuff from them.
I
yeah.
completely agree.
That's
Completely
true.
agree. Right then, Michael, you're number 6.
So this is it. So this is the one that you would think of as being a 70s one, but it's an artist that I was so glad to be able to squeeze into the 60s. So it's David Bowie, and it's Space Oddity.
That nearly made my top 10.
What was that? You see,
it
I had
is
that in my head.
69.
That was
Yeah, he didn't have another hit until 72. That's a long time in the wilderness.
That's
to
right.
write a song like this, I've got, there's 2 friends of mine, Steve Steen and Jim Sweeney, fantastic improvisers. Jim Sweeney's very ill now with MS.
Oh,
But
no.
they told a story about they used to live in Beckenham, and there was a Beckenham sort of blues club or a jazz club there, and you could go along and you could just stand up and sing if you wanted to. So they were on stage singing the song they'd written, and it wasn't getting a great reception. And it's suddenly the whole place erupted, and when everybody joined in and started clapping along, and somebody was playing the tambourine behind them, and they turned around and it was Bowie,
No.
Oh wow!
because that's where he started.
Oh,
He started
my God.
performing at that club, and occasionally he went back. And they said that was at the time that Space Oddity was number 1.
Wow.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Because that duo, I can remember them from my childhood in the 80s. They were in a lot of stuff when they were 2 of the guys that were in a lot of the.
Yeah.
Like the kids' TV, didn't they do?
They
kids
did do a
TV?
kids' TV
Yeah.
thing, yes.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
One of those
they
two
were great,
faces.
and then they did
Yeah.
Comedy Store Players for years, and
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they are
That's right, and-
they were brilliant improvisers.
Yeah,
So
That's-
yeah, they
great.
were
That
fantastic,
is a
weren't
great
they?
one.
Whose
But-
line is it anyway? I think
that's right. Yeah,
sort of brought them to my forefront. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they did appear in a lot of stuff, didn't they?
but this
Oh,
song
bless them.
this only comes out now because he wrote that song, and nobody was very interested in it. And then a record executive heard it, and it was just after the Apollo 11 landing on the moon, and so they went, "That'll work. Get that out."
Yeah.
And so they released it.
Well, when we
Right.
do our part 2, can I put that in my top 10 then? Because I honestly thought that was 70s. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I was surprised to see it on the list there for 1969. Well, just as a 60s song, but yeah, just sneaked in there. Go on then, Neil. You're number 6.
So I've gone for another beautiful song. Simon and Garfunkel's "Sound of Silence."
It's beautiful.
Now, from now on to my number 1, these could all probably change day after day. But this, when you just hear a song and you fall in love with it, and for some reason it's there, isn't it, for life, that when you hear it, it brings back emotions or whatever. This is one of those songs for me. I will say that, which always shocked me, that the band Disturbed, which are a very heavy metal band, did a cover version of this, and his voice on this song, I have to say, is absolutely stunning, and it's a beautiful version.
Yeah.
I do always prefer the original on this one, but there's something about Art Garfunkel's voice as well that I don't think he gets a lot of credit for the beauty of his voice. Now people seem to have forgotten him.
And in many ways, "Bridge Over Troubled Waters," that's their big song.
Exactly,
and in fact, it's just him.
It is just him.
It's like a solo version.
But
this is gorgeous, isn't it? And
it's just beautiful.
To start a song with "Hello, darkness, my old friend," I've come to talk with you again. That's just, you go, oh my word.
Exactly.
It's incredibly powerful.
It's when you hear Paul Simon talk about the art of songwriting, there's moments when I watch it and I think, God, he's getting a bit anal about this, isn't he? But then you realise that he actually sweats over every single syllable, every single note, every single moment of a song. It's not just, I'm just going to play some chords and wonder what happens. He genuinely studies everything.
Yeah,
and it's just fantastic. Yes. It is.
It's another example, though, of the fact that, in fact, the lead vocal is taken by Art Garfunkel.
Yeah,
it's interesting to be a great songwriter like that, with a great voice like that, and to constantly give over the tune to the other performer. It's interesting, isn't it? Because they didn't get on very well at the end.
No, not at all.
And I think Art Garfunkel always felt that, he didn't get the credit he deserved, but he got a lot more of a chance than he possibly deserved.
Yeah.
He could easily have been the man who does the harmony.
Yeah. Exactly.
But often he wasn't.
And with the songs that he is lead on, like you said, "Bridge Over Troubled Water," which is just him, is just... He's got a haunting voice, I think, Art Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Perfect for Watership Down.
I was going to say Bright Eyes. I mean, it's not, to me, a great song, but it's beautifully sung now.
Oh, I think it's a lovely song.
Yeah. I think I'm traumatized from my childhood. That's why.
So. Yeah.
Watching Watership Down, but
there's a beautiful version of him singing "I Only Have Eyes for You."
That's another one.
Is fantastic.
Yeah,
and his voice just floats, doesn't it, up to those big top notes.
Exactly.
And they work so well together as a voice as well as the two. Well, it's funny you say that, Neil, because at about 5 o'clock tonight, that was my number 6 as well.
Right.
But actually, it's not. I chose The Boxer instead. I was choosing between Sound of Silence and The Boxer, and I went with The Boxer instead. So it's still number 6. And everything you've just said, and you've said as well, Michael, about the two of them together, says exactly the same for this. Whether it's the lyrics, the way that their voices meld together, and there isn't really a lead singer in this one. They sing everything together.
Yeah.
beautifully
in sync and in unison. It's just a beautiful tune.
Have you watched the footage of when they reformed and did it however many times? And there's the one at Madison Square Gardens where they came back and did the performance. And when they sing these songs, they hadn't lost it. The beauty. No. I mean, I wasn't even there, and it's years after when I watched it, and it still brought tears to my eyes in that sense.
Yeah,
it is absolute beauty.
It is fantastic. When I was a student, I shared a house with a fellow who played guitar very well, and he loved this song. And we decided that we were so broke that we should go out and do busking.
Right.
So we worked this one up, and we worked up a couple of other songs, but mostly, we did Bye Bye Love and things like that, just where you could do the two harmonies. I did the Garfunkel part, and he did the Paul Simon part. And we walked down into town, into Oxford, and we stood outside the Bodleian Library, and we started playing. and a coach pulled up full of Japanese tourists, and they all got off, and they put notes into our hat. Honestly, they went, "Oh, very good," and they just put this money into a hat, and we made about 50 quid.
Wow.
And we hadn't even finished this one song. It was one of the best performed gigs I've ever done.
Slip
And
it
we
in
went,
everywhere.
well, that'll do. And we never got we never sang Bye Bye Love in public. We just sang that song and then we went to the pub.
And also suddenly realizing that whilst recording this, we're coming up to Christmas and we've done the Christmas songs. I don't think I put their version of Silent Night in, which I think is absolutely beautiful.
No,
They do.
didn't even occur to me, that one.
No, and that's a beautiful version.
Yeah, there you go. Right, we're halfway through, so it is time for this.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yes, we're going to have a little bit of a quiz. Now, this is a little bit different, this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the song and the title. You need to tell me what year it came out.
Right.
Okay.
Crikey.
So it's first one to three. Michael, you are our guest, so you can go first or second.
No, let's dive in. I'll go
You're
first.
Gonna,
Go on.
okay, and if you get it wrong, it goes over to our the opponent. And
I'm going to
first
tell you,
one to
I'm going to lose this.
Okay, well, you never know. You
Michael.
never know.
I haven't got a good hit ratio on these quizzes
Okay.
for some reason.
So the first one is Manfred Mann and Pretty Flamingo. What year did that come out?
I've got to think
I'm going to go 67.
It wasn't. Neil?
Trying to even think how it goes right now. My mind's not
Pretty
right.
flamingo.
Oh, yeah. I'll go 67 then, because it was.
That's
on-
what
I said
Michael just
67.
Oh, sorry. I'll go 66. Sorry, Michael.
66.
Is correct. It was
Yeah.
1966. So well done, Neil. Over to you, Neil, with The Kinks, and You Really Got Me.
This is one of their first, isn't it? I'll go 65. Oh.
It is not. So, Michael, over to you. What year?
64.
Is correct. Well done, Michael. Okay, over to you then, Michael. Scaffold and Lily the Pink.
Love this
Oh.
song. Why do I love this song? I don't know.
Mike McCartney. Yeah. Lily the Pink.
What year do you reckon that was?
68. No.
It was.
I'm going to go 69 then.
It was.
There we are.
Yeah, it's the end of the season.
Now, I want to know, Neil,
Neil.
are you doing the same thing as me, thinking that number and then changing your mind and giving the wrong answer?
I did on the Kinks. With 64.
Yeah, I just did it with that
60.
one. I thought it's right at the end of the
There's a bit of a
60s. I know
pattern
it was at the
forming
end.
here. There's a bit of a pattern forming. Okay, Neil. This is for the win, actually, Neil. So,
Neil, go for it.
Sonny and
Ooh.
Cher, I Got You, Babe.
Ooh. I'm going to go 65. It's lower in the 60s than I
It
thought.
was
Oh, wow.
65.
It was. Yeah. I would have gone for 65 as well.
Well done.
Oh, well done, Michael.
Right.
Sorry.
As I
No,
actually,
I
as
knew-
I actually
no, I'm happy with that.
researched 10 of these bloody things. Well, we'll go through them anyway. So
Yeah.
just
Go on then,
shout
let's
out.
have a go.
So Spencer Davis Group, Keep On Running.
Oh. See, that's... I'm going to go quite early. I'm going 64.
It wasn't. No.
No,
Neil?
Is it
What do you
later?
reckon?
65.
It was 66.
Ah.
The Rolling Stones, Get Off My Cloud. What do you reckon?
Who's this? Michael first?
No,
Michael.
you can just shout them because
Okay,
you've already
66.
won, Neil. So
65.
it was 65.
Ah,
Well done.
I had
Elvis
64.
Presley, Return to Sender.
62.
It was 62.
Yeah.
The Monkees, I'm a Believer.
Oh, 64.
No,
66.
it was 67.
Wow.
Cliff Richard, congratulations.
1427.
Not that late.
Congratulations, you've come second in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah.
Congratulations. 1960.
No.
No. It's I think 69.
68. You were
Oh,
very
yeah,
close
not
there,
far.
Michael. And the last one, The Beatles, She Loves You.
63.
It was 63. There you go. Okay, back
We
to
all
the
knew that one.
back to
Everybody
the main,
knew that one.
Yeah, indeed. Back to the main issue. Michael, your number 5, please.
Number 5. So this is one of those songs that doesn't appear on many lists, but it's Etta James. I'd Rather Go Blind.
Oh, okay.
1967. It was one of the B-sides. So as with God Only Knows, I have to say, God Only Knows is a B-side to Wouldn't It Be Nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah. So this is just, Etta James was one of those fantastic blues singers. And she was, really famous in the 50s and had this extraordinary voice and had a number of hits. But then she became a heroin addict and her career has absolutely fallen away. And this was really one of those songs that was recorded in a break. She took a break. She managed to, go, I'm clean. And she went back into the recording studio and recorded this. And it's unbelievable. I mean, the emotion of it. We talk about the ability of a song to tear you apart. If you don't know it, then I would say listen to it because it's amazing. So it's unusual to pick somebody who's not famous, particularly, or a song that's not that well known. But for me, it's I can't listen to it without crying.
Oh, right. Now, is Etta James, is she the one that had a resurgence with the I Just Want to Make Love to You song from the Coke advert? Wasn't it the Coke advert?
Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was.
She sort of came back in the sort of 90s and 2000s.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there's one to go on the list then, Neil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Etta James. I've had a little delve into Etta James.
Have you really?
My phrasing there. But yeah, before, with the wonder of like your Spotify's and Apple Music, you can pick up on these things. And I've always, Nina Simone, I've got a lot of admiration, listened to a lot of that, Ella Fitzgerald and sort of things like that. And when you're in those rabbit holes, Etta James comes out all the time. So I've had a little dabble, but I need to go further in. And
yeah, it's one of those people who would be much more famous were it not for the fact that much of the time she was unable to perform or was, off her head.
Oh, right.
So, she has these great gaps in her career. And people keep saying you can't rely on her. And then she has to force her way back in. And because she's got such an amazing voice, they bring her back in. And then she does a bit. And then she'll have a hit. And then disappears again.
Wow.
Sad.
Great one.
Sad.
Great one.
It is sad.
Okay, then, Neil, number 5.
So I've said certain bands, I'm only entitling myself to one song from them. So this is my Rolling Stones one. And it's Give Me Shelter.
That's my number 2.
Is it really?
That's my number 2, yeah.
Which it's to this day, I think it's probably the greatest Rolling Stones song they've ever done. We've spoken about it before. The backing vocals on this song are just stunningly beautiful. The whole track is fantastic. It really is. It's a fantastic, Mick sounds really good. Like I know him, you see, Mick.
All his friends called him Michael.
That'd be why then. But it's a great song. We've spoken about this so many times on numerous podcasts, haven't we, Pav? We really have. I just think it's a perfect song.
Yeah.
It is. It's again in so many different ways. It's a perfect song, but I've got a funny feeling. I'm sure that Michael must have some kind of Rolling Stones anecdote. There must be.
All I can tell you from this is that I'm ashamed to say, really, that I haven't chosen a single track
from the Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones. In a way, it's sort of, when you've got this whole body of things, I'd very nearly put Painted Black in.
Right.
Yeah, that's another classic, isn't it? Yeah.
But in the end, possibly, like you say, the fact that they're still going and they're still hammering these songs out, and you sort of go, stop now. That's enough.
I don't think they know how to, do they?
They don't.
That's the thing.
No.
I really do. I mean, Keith Richards famously said with the release of the last single on that interview, he said if he stops, he's going to die.
Yeah, quite. I think they're right. But, I just, maybe it's been, the whole thing for me has been tarnished by the fact that they just keep going.
Yeah.
And
again, it's that whole thing, like we were saying about earlier on, is that like the bands where someone dies in it and they go away, they become immortalized. And you will just constantly, again, you love the Beatles.
I think now I would be going, Honky Tonk Woman is one of the greatest songs ever written. What are you talking about? It's got to be on the list.
Exactly.
I can't get no satisfaction. Greatest song of the 60s.
Yeah.
I would be saying that now if, for example, Mick Jagger or half of them had if they'd gone along with their drummer,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah. Do you find it the same with like the Who, Michael? Because obviously they're still performing well and truly everywhere.
You see, you've done this deliberately, haven't you? Yeah, I I went to dinner at Robert Bathurst's house. He lives in Stonegate. He's a wonderful actor, Robert, and so I can't remember his name. No, who's the lead singer of the Who?
Roger
Daltrey.
And Roger Daltrey lives just down the road. And we went round and he said, "Oh, Mike, this is Kevin. He's a local farmer. This is Peter. He's a teacher. This is Roger. He's a singer. Aren't you? Still singing, aren't you, Roger?" And I went round the table like that, and I went, "It's Roger Daltrey." And at one point, we opened a bottle of wine, and it was absolutely unbelievable. It was one of the best bottles of wine I'd ever tasted. And I said, "Who brought this?" Stupid question. Roger Daltrey said, "I did. I've got it from my side. I don't really drink wine, but I've got some wine in the cellar. I just picked it up." And it was like a Petrus 1968 or something. It was absolutely absurdly expensive bottle of wine. He said, "I've got some more if you want it." And we said, "Yeah, all right." So he said, "All right, come with me, Mike, and we'll go down there." So I got in his car, which was out the front, and he hadn't been drinking wine, and he drove like a rock star.
Really?
He drove this great big Mercedes down some country lanes to his place and then swung into this gravel drive and sort of spun it round. And then we went in and went down to the cellar, which was full of the most amazing wine. And he said, "I don't know what any, I don't drink it. So you pick one." And I picked some sort of amazing bottle of wine, which then we took it back. So that's when you ask me for a Rolling Stones one, I'm afraid I can only do the Who.
Well, that's fine, because I'm denied about a Who song, and I realised that I fell in love with the 70s Who, you know, Tommy and stuff like that soundtrack. So, yeah, I couldn't get a 60s Who song in there.
There you go. The Roger Daltrey story is chapter 7 of Michael's autobiography.
And do you still have the bottle of wine, or did you drink it? Because it probably
no, we drank it. We drank it. I should have kept it. I know. Yeah. We did record a Who song on Spitting Image years ago, which was fun to do. Which had the line, "I hope I get old before I die." Yeah. Which is, you know, so we just switched it round, which I'm sure is what they should be singing now.
Indeed, that's absolutely right. Okay, my number 5 is, I'm going to mirror everything that you said earlier on, Michael, about your number 10, because I've gone for Waterloo Sunset by the Kinks. Again, Sunny Afternoon was on my list until I think before yesterday, I think it was, and I was tossing between Waterloo Sunset and Sunny Afternoon, and I just went for Waterloo Sunset. It's but everything you said, Michael, is exactly the same about Waterloo Sunset and Sunny Afternoon. It could have been flip of a coin for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't really need to say much more about that, to be fair.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Terry and Julie. We know that's Terence Stamp and Julie Christie.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's who it is.
I didn't know that. There we go. Every day's a school day.
Yeah.
Chapter 8 of the book there. Chapter 8 of the book.
I did not know that. Julie Christie, one of the most beautiful women ever.
Oh, amazing.
And see, this podcast, you don't get entertained, you also get educated. I've always said 2 for 1 on this podcast.
You learn things you don't want to know.
Exactly. Yeah, but you never know, do you? You might be sat on the £1 million or the £1 million Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they'll say, you know, who are they? And you go, I know. I'll phone my friend Michael. He'll be drinking a bottle of Roger Daltrey's wine. Answer this question. Okay, Michael, you're number 4 then, please.
At number 4 is Aretha Franklin, Natural Woman. I know that's written by Carole King, and she did a beautiful version of it herself, but I just think that Aretha's version of it is amazing. And I think possibly she's the greatest soul singer. Well, she is the greatest soul singer there's ever been. It's a voice that the things she can do with her voice are astonishing. And again, it's one of those, it gives me chills to listen to it. It's a fantastic song. And I also just always picture my wife and my daughter late at night drunkenly screaming along to it, you know, which is, who wouldn't? Happy. Lovely.
This is another one of those. It's another one of those ones where women at a karaoke think that they can sing it, and it's not until they get in front of the microphone that they realise that there's only one Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, The amazing thing is that I very nearly picked Respect, which of course is the big hit she had at that time, which was written by Otis Redding.
Oh, was it? I didn't realise that.
Yeah. So she switched it round. It's become the great women's anthem. Yeah. But no, in the end I went for Natural Woman because I love Carole King as well. So it sort of reminds me of that. I love the famous Tapestry album.
Yes.
Oh,
Great
what a
choice.
voice. What a
Great
voice.
choice. Okay, then Neil, your number 4 then, please.
So I had to put a Beatles one in here because we're big Beatles fans. I wasn't going to put it number 1 because we've done everything we can ever do, probably talking about the Beatles, but I could have any one of them, I thought. But today I'm going to have Hey Jude.
Well done.
Because I can. And because I didn't know which one to choose. And so there's a special place for this one. I mean, me and Pav have done it at a few shows where it just goes on and on. At the end of our shows, we've sung it. Audience always seem to love it. It's a beautiful, simple song in a sense. I love the fact that you can hear John Lennon's reaction in the background and they still play it when it's on the radio. You can hear it as clear as day. I love that reaction. It's just, it had to be for me. I'll put this one in today. Tomorrow it'll be something different.
No, but it's glorious. It's a fantastic song. I've always thought that a good documentary would be to research who are the people, all those young people in the video of Hey Jude.
Oh yeah,
To climb on stage with them.
Yeah.
And they've been brought into the studio. It's a weird group of people. And they just suddenly told, at this point, when he starts singing this thing, join in with him and stand right there. And they get right. And there's one bloke who conducts everybody. He looks a bit drunk. Right. He's got his teeth out. Who are those people?
Well, there you go. That could be a new podcast.
It could be. I saw an interview with Julian Lennon, and he was saying how he hates this song. He said he absolutely respects it, and it's a great song. He said, but he never wants to hear this song again. He said because it's written about like his dad not being there, and it's just painful to hear the song because while everybody else loves the song, it just brings back all these really unhappy memories for him. So he said he never ever wants to hear the song. He respects Paul McCartney for writing it. But he said, I just never want to hear that song again. It's just like, it's too painful.
Yeah, could understand that.
My wife's father loved this song because it was when it came out. He said he was a beatnik, really. And when this came out in the 60s, they were still going to coffee bars and the jukebox would play. And when they put it on, because it went on for so long, he remembers the first time it went on. And then they put it on immediately afterwards again. So it's about 7 minutes, isn't it? And then they pressed the buttons and played it again. And then they played it until everybody knew it.
Right.
So they played it all morning, over and over and over again. And by the end, the whole place was just singing along to it and just standing up and waving their arms in the air. And then he bought a copy of it and took it home to his father. Now, my wife's father was very Jewish. And he took it home and played it to his dad and said, what do you think? And he said, it's a good song. I like it. He said, yeah, hey, Jew. Nice.
Oh, bless.
Bless him.
Bless.
Did you correct him or did you just let him have his moment?
No, I think he left him. Yeah, that's what it's called, Dad.
Have to. But I also love the fact that you hear the real sort of surprise in, like I said before, John Lennon. I mean, you hear him just go, fucking hell. You can hear it as clear as day. So you can hear that respect that comes out of John Lennon for that.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they've left it in there. And
There's something very rounding about it as well. I think that you can see them at the point where they just go. They're so settled and they've sort of done it. We've done it now.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he starts singing "She Loves You" at the end of it.
Oh yeah,
it takes it full circle.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
It says you've used the same chords.
It's a classic. It's a classic. Absolute classic. Okay, my number 4. Hang on. Is it this? Yes, it is. I'm going to do the same as I did with number 5 with the Kinks. I will just bow to everything that Michael said in regards to the Beach Boys, because I've gone for "Wouldn't It Be Nice" instead of what you chose. What did you choose? God Only Knows. Could have been either.
As I said, that mine was the B-side of yours.
Yeah, it could have been either one, and again, it's another classic tune. There isn't much more I can say apart from what Michael said earlier on in regards to God Only Knows. Everything works with this. It's just a beautiful tune. And
the great thing is that album, Pet Sounds, is the thing that inspired Sergeant Pepper's.
Sergeant Pepper. Yeah.
But they wrote Sergeant Pepper's. They did that song. They made all those albums. You know, it's an incredible thing to have done. But they did it because they heard Pet Sounds and went, "We need to up our game."
Yeah, and you feel then that everything that happened from Sergeant Pepper was different, wasn't it? And like you say, if it hadn't have been for Pet Sounds, there wouldn't have been Sergeant Pepper's. So yeah. Okay then, Michael, you're number 3, please.
Number 3. Well, taking us back to. We're going to do the entire songbook of Simon and Garfunkel because I've gone for America.
Oh,
okay.
Nice.
Which is number 3 of all the best songs in the 60s. Wow, that's quite a thing to say, isn't it? But I just think it's a fantastic song. Again, this is one of those ones where I was talking always about him handing it over to Art Garfunkel. He doesn't in this song. This is clearly a song that means something to him, I think, to Paul Simon, and he really takes the lead on it.
Yeah.
And you can tell that it's a personal song. You can tell that it's a song written about you feel that it's a personal experience. That at some point he's done this. You know, it's like it's exactly the same thing as just sitting on a railway station. You know, Homeward Bound is you know that is him. He apparently written in a railway station, Warrington or Crewe or something like that, sitting waiting for a train to go home and just wanted to get back to America. And then this is him doing that journey, going off. He'd come across on this journey a place called Saginaw, and he thought, I'm going to put that in a song because it's such a great name, and he does.
Do you think there's a bad Simon and Garfunkel song? I mean, I've racked my brains to the albums I listened to.
Do you know the one that the one with the panpipes on it gets on my nerves now? What's that one?
That's not Me and Julio Down by the School. No, that's
I love
Paul
that
Simon's
song.
isn't
Love
it?
that
Yeah,
one.
that's Paul Simon's song.
It's I can't remember, but anybody who knows, you can listen back. It's got not panpipes. It's sort of the South American, whatever that is. I
can't remember the name of it. But I mean, even I was going to say like Scarborough Fair is still a lovely song, even though it's like a nursery rhyme that they're singing, isn't it? It's yeah. I don't know. I don't think they've done a duff.
What a songwriter he's just one of the most amazing songwriters.
Absolutely.
There's a beautiful song called Renee and it's about Magritte and his wife, and it's about them living in America after the war and surviving, and it's just an astonishing song.
Let's see if I can find it.
Renee and Georgia Magritte with their dog after the war.
That's right. Yeah. Renee and Georgette Magritte with their dog after the war. Perfect.
It's a beautiful. If you've not heard it, have a listen. It's a beautiful, beautiful song.
Perfect.
So I mean that's it. America. I can't really say much about it, but it makes you want to get on a Greyhound bus, and and the bloke in the gabardine suit is a spy. Of course he is. We know that.
When you were sat on the train station waiting for your train after being the night with Chris Evans, were you singing America, or were you singing Dublin? Maybe I
was singing Homeward Bound. That's what I was singing.
Yeah. And quickly.
Yes, please.
Go on then, Neil. You're number 3.
Satchmo. I love him. Got to grow to love him. So I'm going to put What a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong. I discovered Louis Armstrong probably in my early 20s. It took me a long time to find out about him, and I've loved him ever since. He used to be when you could put more than one CD in your CD player in the car. His greatest hits was always a constant. My dad was a little bit of a fan, but I've got him into the albums and the other stuff. I mean, obviously appeared in movies. It's just that voice. We're talking voices, but
yeah.
This is almost magical, isn't it? When you listen to this, to me, with his voice, and it's What a Wonderful World. It sort of makes you a bit happier when you hear it, just subconsciously. You do. You sort of romanticize that the world isn't such a shit place when you hear it, but
well, he's sort of right. If you look at those things, that is wonderful. They are wonderful things. The colours of the rainbow, trees, children. You sort of go, that's amazing.
Exactly.
And we're lucky to have them.
we take it for
the thing that
granted.
people forget about Satchmo is that he does have a really good voice. I mean, it's unusual, but he can sing a hell of a range.
Yeah.
He doesn't just do that just gravelly stuff. He sings, it keeps the tune going.
Yeah.
And it developed this ability when you listen to his recordings with Ella Fitzgerald, where he sings like a trumpet.
That's right.
He sings trumpet parts. It's incredible.
And he was a fantastic trumpet player as well.
Amazing trumpet player.
He really was.
Yeah. I remember listening to this on the first time. I think it was like the last song on the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack.
Oh, is it?
Is it?
And that was where I sort of discovered it. But yeah, I mean, you can't fault the voice. I mean, he's one of those voices. As soon as he sings, you know who it is.
Exactly.
Nobody can mimic that voice.
And yet, once he'd done it, when everybody impersonated him, they all went, "Oh, yeah."
Didn't they?
But in fact, that's the first time he does it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not. It just puts it on at the end of that song.
And I would definitely say if you have only really touched on Satchmo, go in deep, because it's beautiful. You're going to be well rewarded, because I certainly was. Really,
and what he does with other singers. So, for example, Bing Crosby, who was an enormously successful singer for many decades, one of America's great singers.
Yeah,
did a lot of recordings where he just sang well, but you can tell that when he really, really is enjoying himself singing, is something like The Birth of Jazz from High Society, isn't it? I think, that it just goes, you take a bone, and it's just he lets himself go jazzy, which he sort of had held back before that. But being with Satchmo, you can see that he's genuinely making him laugh.
Yeah.
And that's a film, it's not a live performance. It's the fact that even within the making of a film, he was able to he varied it enough each time to make him laugh at it.
And that's the other thing, wasn't it? Satchmo always looked like he was having a good time.
Yeah.
Whenever you see him on the movies, on the live performances that you can find, he's having a great time, that boy.
Yeah. Great one. Okay, my number 3, we're going to go back to Motown, and I'm going to go for Baby Love by the Supremes. Diana Ross and the Supremes. Again, Stop in the Name of Love I could have had, You Can't Hurry Love, any of those kind of ones, but this has just got a killer melody, and the voices. This is what Motown is to me. This song is what Motown is. And I was just listening to it then.
It's a head bobber, isn't it?
It really
you
is.
hear it and you're away.
You just can't beat it. I mean, I'm a big Diana Ross fan anyway, even when she was like solo stuff, but yeah, you just can't beat him.
And
it's
did
an
you
extraordinary
enjoy
voice, isn't it? It's not. I mean, there's so many of those singers from that time who had voices that were really powerful or gravelly, or had an enormous range. You don't notice her range,
no,
because she does it with such ease.
Yeah.
If you try to sing any of those songs, or almost any of the songs she ever recorded, they're really hard.
Yeah. She's got.
But she makes it
like
sound
a very
easy.
Fragile voice, but it's not fragile. But do you know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah.
It's. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just an amazing voice.
Did you enjoy
really
a Glastonbury set?
Not so much.
I
My
mean,
mum and dad
obviously
went and saw her live, and they said that live she sounded okay.
Yeah,
But
a friend of mine saw her at Cardiff Castle, and he said some of the songs sounded a bit. The ones that really came out, they were worried that the rumours were true, that she was singing to a backing track.
Right. But again, I was having this conversation with someone at work today in regards to Paul McCartney and the fact that I think I've asked this question before. Paul McCartney's 82 now, 83, and his voice is not there now. But if you're going to go and spend money to see Paul McCartney, are you seeing him as he is, or are you going to see him because he's Paul McCartney? You know, it's the same as a lot of these ones. So with Diana Ross, you're going to see a living legend.
That's
yes.
right.
Does it
if you
matter
want
that
to
she
see people sing those songs as well as they did originally, then the best thing to do is go and see a tribute band.
Exactly.
Because they will sing them better than the people who can sing them. The only example of people who can still sing their songs and probably sing them better is someone like Tom Jones, who I'm annoyed that I haven't got in my list.
Right.
I mean, I so admire Tom Jones and so love his voice. And I wanted to put Green Green Grass of Home in it, just because I think it's a fabulous song.
Yeah.
And I was in Benidorm, no, actually in the town of Benidorm. I was also in the program Benidorm, but we were out one night. It was great. We found this karaoke bar that was virtually empty, so everybody rang everybody else up, and all the cast of Benidorm went there, and so we could sing karaoke without being disturbed.
Right.
Not in my case, but there were people like Johnny Vegas and other, very much more famous people than me, and so we took our turns, and then just as I was about to sing, this great horde of people, all dressed as Heidi High. Yellow coats, all came in, and they'd all come from South Wales, and they all came in. They were very drunk and very loud, and they went, and everybody went, "We should leave." And I said, "No, we'll get them on our side." So I said to the bloke, "Can you do Green Green Grass of Home?" And I sang it, and they all came and sat sort of around my feet and joined in. It was fantastic, and then we had a great night with these lovely, lovely people. It was very good fun. So
fantastic.
I have a very fond memory of that song. But I think Tom Jones is, in another time they would have taken him and turned him into an opera singer or something. He can do anything.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible. Okay, then Michael, you're number 2.
At number 2 is Sam Cooke. A Change Is Gonna Come. Which he recorded lots of really lovely, quite light, quite sort of jolly songs, and then I think that he heard Bob Dylan singing "Blowing in the Wind," and was annoyed with himself that a white man had written such a great protest song about racism that he thought, "I've got to do it," and he knew that he'd avoided writing this song because he was worried about losing his audience. He knew that most of the people who bought the records were in fact white, and he recorded this song, and it's incredibly powerful. I mean, the lyrics are simple, but it's amazing, and it also was a reflection of the fact that he'd gone with his wife to stay in a hotel in Louisiana, and they'd booked it over the phone, and then when he turned up there, they said, "I'm sorry, we're full," and he said, "No, you're not." And they said, we are full. And eventually the man said, "We're full for your type."
Yeah.
And he thought, this is no good. And, it reflects all those things, reflects, I've had a dream, and, I have a dream, and all those sort of amazing speeches are made at that time. I find it really disturbing that a song that's so powerful, and that once you've heard it, you have to say to yourself, yeah, a change is going to come. A change has got to come. We must change. This is absurd that there is this in the world. And yet this was recorded in 1965, 66. And 64. It hasn't. It's terrible, isn't it?
And
it's terrible that, you would think something like that would change the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to speak about it more, but
oh, maybe you might a little bit later. Okay.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah. I'll stop there because
But you summed up perfectly. Yeah,
good. That's my choice.
That's a great one.
I have to say, because I've got one left, so obviously I've left out. I haven't got Otis Redding. I haven't got Marvin Gaye. These are amazing songs.
Yeah.
But you've got the Scaffold right up there.
Scaffold's there, thank God. You betcha.
Yeah, that's the number one.
Good.
Okay, then Neil, you're number 2.
Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lines from
I
say one of the most
10.
perfect songs ever written.
What a voice. What a voice as well.
What a voice, and what a story in the song. I mean, if you don't know this song, why not? Is the first question. Everybody should be introduced to this song. I think it's one of the most perfect songs ever written. Genuinely. Yeah. It would be their all-time greatest. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just perfection. It's just perfection.
Those lonely songs about Americans going around doing traveling distance, they're amazing. Sort of King of the Road and things like that. Great songs. But this is, you're right, this is the best. This is Glenn Campbell had the most beautiful, pure voice. And this is so soulful as well, though, isn't it? Because he didn't come from that area. Uh, it's a great song. It's definitely on a list of things that I wrote down and thought, shall I? Shan't I? I didn't. But you're right.
And even Tom Hiddleston, how he did this, how he played Glenn Campbell in the movie, didn't he? It's phenomenal. And he gives it a go and sings it well, but not to this standard.
No,
I think it's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it was very close. It was in my top sort of 15, and it just didn't make.
We've all written it down, isn't it? Because I've got it the list here.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Great one though, Neil. Well done. Okay, my number 2 was "Gimme Shelter" by the Rolling Stones. So before we actually reveal our number ones, Michael, do you want to do a rundown from 10 to 2? Neil will do the same, then I'll do the same.
Okay, so number 10 was Sunny Afternoon by the Kinks. Number 9 was Unchained Melody by Righteous Brothers. At number 8 was God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. Number 7, Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. Number 6, Space Oddity by David Bowie. Number 5, I'd Rather Go Blind by Etta James. Number 4 was Aretha Franklin singing Natural Woman. Number 3, America by Simon and Garfunkel. And number 2 was Sam Cooke, A Change Is Gonna Come.
Wonderful. Neil?
So at number 10, I had Summer in the City, The Loving Spoonful. At number 9, Crazy, Patsy Cline. Number 8, Brown Eyed Girl, Van Morrison. Number 7, Creedence Clearwater Revival with Bad Moon Rising. Number 6, Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel. Number 5, Give Me Shelter, Rolling Stones. Number 4, Hey Jude, The Beatles. Number 3, What a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong. And number 2, Wichita Linesman, Glenn Campbell.
Okay, thank you. Mine is number 10, San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair, Scott McKenzie. 9, California Dreamin', The Mamas and the Papas. 8, The Tracks of My Tears, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. 7, I Want You Back, The Jackson 5. 6, The Boxer, Simon and Garfunkel. 5, Waterloo Sunset, The Kinks. 4, Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys. 3, Baby Love by Diana Ross and the Supremes. And 2, Gimme Shelter, The Rolling Stones. So, Michael, what is your number 1 song of the 60s?
What a night we'd have if we just sat and listened to all these.
The playlist for our
we may well
Patreoners
do
is gonna
that.
be
I've got 2
fantastic.
cans of beer left. I'm going to stay online. We're going to play them all.
Yeah.
So I have gone for, I've gone for the Beatles, obviously. I have chosen She Loves You.
Oh, lovely.
I know. I have a particular reason. I love it. I love it because, again, it's one of those Beatles songs. It goes, "Diddle-diddle-dum, she loves you." Yeah, they go straight into the chorus, which is incredibly brave. Nobody was doing that. In you come, this is the song, this is what it's about. It's also the first time they did that thing where they switched. They weren't writing about, I love you love me, give me, kiss me. They weren't writing that. They were saying, you, my mate here, don't worry, mate, she still loves you. They were the go-between. That's an extraordinary thing. And I think that it's, of those early ones particularly, it's the one that gets me more than any of the other ones. It gets me up and gets me dancing. It also has that fantastic rallentando at the end. You know you should. That bit.
Yeah.
Now, in the film A Hard Day's Night, my cousin Lynn was a member of the London Beatles fan club. And when they made that film, they filmed it in a theatre in London. And they invited the London's Beatles fan club to come for the concert. So she saw that concert. Not only that, they filmed the crowd and they filmed people screaming and shouting. And at that point, it goes, you know you should. And it cuts to her face, enormous face. She puts the hands to the side of her face and goes,
Oh, wow. That's your
be
back.
back, yeah. And that's my cousin Lynn.
Oh, wow.
That is
And I
incredible.
remember going as a sort of 6-year-old to 5-year-old. I think we were taken to the cinema to see this film, which is a great film. It's
It is
really
a great
funny,
film.
really funny. And just we all yelled and screamed when her face came up at the end.
That
It
is
was amazing.
incredible.
You see that in the cinema, that's a 30-foot screen. It was fabulous.
Oh, that is
so yeah,
awesome.
she's in her, well, she's 70 odd now, but she was a beautiful girl.
What a
and it's
claim to
understandable.
fame that is, though.
Immortalised.
It cuts
Immortalised.
to her face.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
And
Isn't it?
I mean, I haven't seen the film in age, but I can remember the girl doing that.
I can't.
We'll
yeah,
find
that's
that for
her.
the video
That's my
playlist.
cousin Lynn.
Wow.
I can't listen to that song without the anticipation of knowing that bit's coming. And when I hear that bit at the end, the slow down before the end,
Yeah.
before she's, be glad. I'm thrown right back.
That is
It's
amazing.
amazing.
That is a fantastic story. Oh, Michael, you've not disappointed with your stories tonight, I'll tell you. That is fantastic. Go on then, Neil, beat that.
Well, you probably know what my number one is. It's A Change Is Gonna Come, Sam Cooke. I mean, Michael summed up the story of that beautifully, but also, to me, Sam Cooke, his voice, if we did a top 10 best singers, he'd be well up there, because I think he's got the most perfect voice. And it's such a sad loss that we had here as well, with the awful incident that happened wherever it was. We lost. I still could see him. Well, maybe not now, but singing right through his life and career. I think he had a perfect voice. Elvis knew this, because obviously, when I went to Memphis, that's what they tell you, is that the last record that he played before he died was Sam Cooke, because he always admired Sam Cooke. He had everything going for him. He was such a good-looking man as well. He wrote great pop tunes, or sang great pop tunes, as well as then coming around and doing a hard-hitting song like this. But I think this is perfection, this song. Again, a bit like Wichita Linesman. I don't think I can never hear it and think, oh, I've got to skip that.
Yeah.
It sucks me. His voice is just mesmerizing.
It's tragic, isn't it, when you hear those voices and think that they finished too early. And I think you're right.
Absolutely.
Listening to how beautiful his voice was, I think it would have lasted well into. I think he'd still be singing now, almost in his 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a sad waste. I'm such a fan of Sam Cooke's voice. I really am.
It's like there's when I was going through things and thinking about stuff, I was looking at songs and certain facts come up. And the whistling on sitting on the dock of a bay, sitting on the dock of a day. I don't think so.
Dock of a day, yeah.
Who wants to sit on the dock of a day? No, we sit on the dock of the bay. That bit, which is just a marvelous moment in it. It's because he hadn't finished recording it, and what they use is an early take, and he was going to go back and record it once he'd written words for that bit. And then he died.
Wow.
Those I was going to say happy accidents, but it's not a happy accident because he died. But
it's just,
but that's the
amazing
part of the song that everybody knows,
of course,
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Do you know what's worrying? When I speak to my son, who's 20, he'll be 22 in a couple of weeks. He knows Sam Cooke because obviously I've bled it to him all through his life. But a lot of his generation now don't have any idea who Sam Cooke is, and that's a worry. They know the Beatles, they know people like that, they know the Michael Jacksons. But you mentioned somebody like Sam Cooke, they've got no idea. And I think that's such a worry. They need to start educating these youth.
Youth, I think is what you're saying. You just go, bloody kids.
Or if you're a record executive, take note and just get somebody nowadays to do them all again.
Yeah.
They'll go, what a great song, what a brilliant singer. And you'll go, no, it's a re-record.
And like you said, a change is going to come. It's so apt for today.
It's apt for every day, Neil. That's the trouble. You can
it needs to be still sung. That's why.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does.
The fact that we've gone through Black Lives Matter and all that again, and you say, still we're arguing this point?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, it's almost like someone would do a remake of it. A change is never going to come. If you want to be a cynic about it,
sadly.
Yeah, it must feel that way. It must feel that way.
Indeed. Yeah.
I had, I've had a number of guests on who are black, and they've talked about their experience of life, and they still constantly are stopped by the police, searched. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if they're famous or not. They happen to be driving around at 10 o'clock at night in a reasonably nice car. They know they're going to be pulled over.
It's so sad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So sad.
And the thing is, if Sam Cooke came back today, he would probably weep for the fact that he wrote a song about that back in the 60s and nothing has really changed.
No.
It's ridiculous. But there you go. Okay, my number one, I had to have a Beatles song. So it's pick your choice of what you want. And I've gone for what is my favourite Beatles song, and it is While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Lovely.
it's very strange that as much as Lennon and McCartney are people that I absolutely love as songwriters, my two favourite Beatles songs is this one and Something, which are both written by George Harrison. So, and I've loved this song even more, and I've said this before on this podcast, is if you ever get a chance, I'll put it in the video playlist, and you see Prince's musical accompaniment with, I think it's Jeff Lynne, Tom
Was
Petty.
it pretty much the Travelling Wilburys?
Pretty much. I think George Harrison's son was there as well, and he does the greatest guitar solo you will ever see.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And it showed another one where he just went too young. I mean, he was in his 50s, I think, but
it was
it's just
cancer, wasn't it? Riddled him. He got
he
it
had
cancer?
but he had something to do with his back, wasn't it? And it was the medication for his back that done Prince. But
Oh no,
I
not
think,
Prince. No, George Harrison.
Oh, George Harrison.
Yeah, that
yes,
was cancer. Yeah.
Oh well.
And Eric Clapton famously playing guitar on this.
Yeah, and swapping girlfriends.
Girlfriends and wives. And
There's
stuff.
actually, I mean, I watched the BBC documentary about that. I could barely believe what I was seeing.
Absolutely crazy.
Bizarre.
But then, if it wasn't for that, we'd never had "Wonderful Tonight" and things like that as well.
Well, this is true.
We wouldn't have had those kind of songs. But yeah, it's just a fantastic song. Okay, before we actually say our goodbyes, let's go through some of these honourable mentions. At Jennifer now is it La Chap 6 or Jennifer LA Chap 6 says Sugar Sugar,
LA.
recorded by the Archies, written by Andy Kim and Jeff Barry.
Very good.
Ann_Hegarty, yes, that Ann Hegarty from the Chase.
The Ann Hegarty.
Yeah, Harlem Shuffle, Bob and Earl. Lisa Buchanan, I was barely alive, she said, but I think my mum played these songs as my lullabies. White A Shade of Pale by Procol Harum, Crying by Roy Orbison, Sunshine of Crying, of course, your friend Phil Pope doing a fantastic version of that on Only Fools and Horses.
And still does to this day. Every now and again
does he have the
we do Only Fools and Horses get-togethers, and he puts a silly wig on and a big red shirt, and can still sing it.
Tries a leg as well or not?
Yeah, no,
he doesn't. He doesn't need that anymore.
But he's still got it.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair play.
Brilliant.
Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, 8 Miles High by the Byrds, She's Not There by the Zombies, and God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. How can you not love the 60s? So transitional and almost decadent, a gateway to so many genres we have today. Absolutely.
Brilliantly put. Yeah.
Can I do an honourable shout out? I would love to have put in, simply because I fell in love with her, in Goodbye Mr. Chips, a film with Peter O'Toole. I'd love to have put in Downtown by Petula Clark.
Indeed. At Kevin SM 680277070 said, my very tough choice.
Catchy.
So many wonderful songs in most decades, but for sentimentality, Just Loving You by Anita Harris, one of my mum's favourites, just a beautiful record. Vicky Paulson
Do you know
says,
what? Do you want a story?
Go on.
Yes,
Before we go.
Go on.
Anita has been on my podcast, My Time Capsule. I sort of sought her out because Just Loving You was my father's favourite song.
Oh, really?
He absolutely loved that song. And I've sought her out as a guest for My Time Capsule. And I went to see her in a friend's house, her friend of hers house in London. And we sat there and she was talking about Just Loving You. And I said, it's my father's favourite song. And I used to sing it. He used to get me to sing it. We used to sing at old people's homes and blind clubs and sort of for old people, really. And he would stand up and it was one of the songs that I sang. And she went, oh, sing it with me. And we sang it together.
Really?
And I have a recording of me and her singing it together.
Oh, my God.
It was one of the highlights of my life, I have to tell you.
Imagine.
She's still got a fantastic voice.
I was going to say, she's still with us, isn't she, Anita Harris?
Yeah, she is.
I'm
in her
a
80s.
massive Carry On fan. So I think it's only Anita Harris and probably Jim Dale are the only ones that are really left now.
Yeah.
Wow. You keep hitting these stories out of the park, Michael.
I have had
for
the
goodness sake,
most
write
fantastic
that goddamn
time.
book, will you? For goodness
I have had a
sake.
good time, I'll tell you that much.
You have.
Fantastic time.
Let's just run through the last ones of these. Vicky Paulson says, OMG, just one. How about The Twist by Chubby Checker? At Old Bloke Tipton said, You Were On My Mind. Christian St. Peters. I don't know.
I don't know that one, no?
I don't know that one. We'll have to maybe have a quick look at that one. Nikki Dennis, there are far too many to pick just a favourite. Here's one. I wonder if it made anyone's list. God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. And Rick Tyndall said, just naming a few, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, Good Vibrations, the Beach Boys, Heard It Through the Grapevine, Respect, Aretha Franklin, Stand By Me, Benny King, Georgia on My Mind, Ray Charles. He said, purposely left off the Beatles and Rolling Stones because that could have filled up more than 10 spots easy.
Yeah. A lot of Motown in there.
Thank you very much, everybody, for the honourable mentions there. Michael, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Your absolutely excellent podcast, My Time Capsule. How many episodes are you in now?
We're well up there. We've done. We're just about 340.
Wow!
And that does include sort of Christmas specials and things and stuff. So yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. I do it all the time. I do like doing it. That's the point. And then, as you can probably see from this, I have no problem sitting on Zoom talking.
No, but it's been fascinating. That's the thing. It's always fascinating talking to you, Michael.
It has. Now, the thing is, I haven't had chats. Now I was looking at the podcast today. Was there one episode where your son interviewed you?
It was Richard Herring interviewed me, interesting enough. But I have, because my son produces it, and people kept saying, you'd say to people, who would you like us to get as a guest? And people kept saying, talk to your son, interview your son. So I did. And it's very interesting. It's a simple idea that you basically say to people, pick 5 things from your life that you wish you had in a time capsule. And I did it with my son, and I discovered things about him that I didn't know.
Oh, right.
And we worked together all the time. We lived together for a long time. We lived close to each other. We see him all the time. And yet there were things there that I didn't know that.
And who's the guest that you would love to have, like your bucket list guest?
I'd like to talk to Rowan Atkinson.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
Just because he doesn't do it.
No.
He doesn't do it, and it would be interesting. In a way, you're not asking people to relate the things that they've done that are sort of famous, really. You're asking people to do the things that they care about. So it would be interesting to see what he chose. I think almost certainly 5 cars.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder whether one would be a Mini.
I think they'd nearly all be Aston Martins.
I would imagine so.
I wonder. Because one of the things as well, anybody listening or anybody watching, Michael is very famously the guy that has a fight with Mr. Bean over a buffet.
Yes.
Whether it's the sausages or the oysters. That's one of the funniest Mr. Bean bits that I think I can remember ever.
Not for him, of course, because as you know, with any filming, you do it over and over and over again. So in between all those takes, Rowan was spitting it all out into a bin by the side of him, having to eat
he was
chicken leg after chicken leg.
Yeah, double fisting those sausages and stuff, wasn't it? I mean, that's probably not the right way of doing it.
I'm sure that's how you describe it. No.
But we will put the link to Michael's podcast in the show notes, and please go and check it out, because it is just a fantastic podcast. It is so good. Before we actually say our goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch and all that gubbins?
Of course I will. So come on, email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. You can ask us any questions and give us ideas for top 10s. You can find us on all the social medias at Top 10 Pods. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow, whatever it is you do on those. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods. All sorts of rewards. Come and choose those. And thank you very much to everyone that has done that. Check out all the links via the LINKTREE. Find the link in the show notes. And please do come leave a review rating wherever you get your podcast from.
Wonderful. And obviously for our Patreon subscribers, there will be a video playlist, including Michael playing bass with Davy Jones on the Little and Large show. But even if you are not a fan of the 60s music, or you don't know 60s music, put the video playlist on and just let it play and just enjoy all of the great music. And maybe it might spark you to go and listen to others as well. Because
deep dive. We've
dive.
given you some great opportunities to listen to some fantastic music.
Indeed. Michael, it's been nearly 2 hours, but that is the fastest 2 hours I think I've ever spent on a podcast. I want to thank you, genuinely thank you, for what has been as just a mesmerizing and wonderful night. So thank you so much.
It's been
for
lovely
being
to
a
talk
guest.
to you. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed thinking about it as well, actually. So thank you.
Well, come in the new year. Come and join us again for another one, and we'll
I'm
try
happy
and work
to,
out something
yes.
a little bit easier.
Something slightly narrower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
we'll
yeah.
just pick a band and we'll go maybe for the top 10 Beatles
Maybe.
songs. Oh, that'd
Or
be
we could
just
go 60s movies and that sort of thing. if you
something
want.
like
Yeah,
that.
anywhere.
Or maybe bring it a bit up to date for Michael. We don't want to have him stuck
Well,
in
yeah,
the
well,
60s,
you know.
whatever.
All right, we'll go
Whatever.
1930s.
That's my era.
That's it,
I
that's
would
it.
be well involved in
Manny,
that.
how I love you, my dear old Swanee. Let's do Jolson songs. That'll do.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
do. That'll do. Oh, dear. So, again, Michael, thank you so much. Neil, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pav. Thank you very much, Michael. Been so much fun. It really
Lovely
has been
to see you.
great.
It really has.
Great.
And thank you very much, everybody, for watching and listening. And let's go start the countdown.
10, 9,